we lost one of the hip hop. I mean, this guy was there, basically started it, and said before it was hip hop,
Yeah.
you had African Bambaataa and Kool Herc, and you had people like Grandmaster Flash, and these guys are the ones that they tribute hip hop. So yeah, he died of cancer the other day, and it's just one of those situations. So Tim Dawg, the first question I want to ask, how should the hip hop community remember African Bambaataa legacy, given both his role in founding the culture and the serious controversy surrounding him? I don't know if you heard about the controversy, but some young men say that he sexually assaulted them.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, how should the hip hop community remember African Bambaataa?
They should remember him as he is, a pioneer. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of people just don't know he had more acclaim overseas in Europe
Yeah,
before he even had fame here in the United States. And he got with what is excuse me, not J Electronica, but Kraftwerk and some other European artists who were doing electronic music, and he combined with that him and Kool Herc and all of it, and they were the ones who started, experimenting with,
yeah,
the European hip hop and their electronic music and creating and innovating, and combining it with the hip hop style of New York, creating that style. And
yeah,
and a lot of people just don't know that. It's just wow. And as far
yeah,
as the allegations, it is
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. No, that's one of them allegations. That's why a lot of people. That's why I think you didn't hear a lot about his passing because of the allegations, because of what they say that happens. But like you just said, when you talk hip hop music, which is the number one selling music in the world, you know, this guy is one of the guys that pushed that movement to the front. And by him, those allegations, a lot of people, like with anything, they want to distance themselves from something like that. But he passed at the age of 68 of cancer. With that being said, Tim Dahl, can you separate the impact of a pioneer like African Bambaataa from the allegations that followed him, or are they permanently tied together?
Shit, if you can become president with 37 felonies on you, you can overcome anything. That's all I'm going to say. Enough said.
I agree with you on that, man. Yeah, you can separate the two. That's just like with anything else. Just like when people talk about R. Kelly in his situation, oh, I don't listen to R. Kelly music anymore. Well, that's R. Kelly. The artist is one person. R. Kelly, whatever y'all want to call him, is that. Just like with Bill Cosby. You know what I'm saying? Can you separate Bill Cosby from his comedy and the allegations that women had brought against him? Who else? Tiger Woods. We talked about that the other night. Remember? We
Yeah.
could separate how great he was, great as he was a golfer, from him being this train wreck off the course. So of course, when you see things like this, especially somebody influential like African Bambaataa, like you say, basically there on the ground floor of hip hop, because all these hip hop artists are built upon his back.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
it's just sad that later in his life, rather, not his career,
hmm
um, these allegations coming up, and I'm like, this to me, it sounds like someone's disgruntled. You know, um,
it could be.
African Bambaataa, he was known to be, a hot-head stern. I mean, who from New York wasn't during
Yeah,
that time,
yeah, yeah,
especially when it comes to him being treated well received over in Europe, more so
yeah,
than coming to the US. And I mean, a lot of people understand that's why a lot of us African Americans after World War II, we stayed in France
yeah.
because we knew we would get better treatment. But that being put aside, I don't see the hip hop nation sitting up and gonna put an asterisk by his name.
No, they can't.
But no, not only that, but what for? Once
Yeah,
again, that's not something that's been proven. It's not something that's mainstream. It's not something that people are gravitating towards because, once again, that's the lifestyle that we live in right now. Some stuff like that with some people are acceptable,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and with that being said, man, when you talk about a person like an African Bambaataa,
Mm,
he basically was in a gang called the Black Spades in New York City, and basically he turned his life around when he got into hip hop, basically DJing. So that's when he started what we like to call the Zulu Nation. So Tim Dahl, with that being said, what does his passing mean for the history of the early hip hop and an organization like the
oh,
Universal Zulu Nation? Because he wanted young men and women to put down what they were doing, the gangs, because that's why you don't see gangs
mm,
really in New York. It basically faded out. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
What up, my man?
Hey,
What up?
what's up, Eddie? As a matter of fact, Mr. Johnson, we were talking about that earlier about when we were growing up. There weren't a lot of gangs out there where kids would going out there shooting up and you knuckled up or you got a knife or bat.
Yeah,
Nowadays, everybody want to shoot up everyone, and to me, he changed his lifestyle based on his love for music,
exactly.
his knowledge, his love for learning, and his curiosity of knowing what else is out there because he
Yeah,
got outside of New York and
yeah,
ventured off and learned music over in Europe. And that's where the electronic music came from. And like I say, he was the one that revolutionized. I don't care whatever you want to say it. Hip hop would not be hip hop without him
yeah. Yeah. Oh
at
no.
all,
Oh no.
nowhere.
Oh no. Oh no. You can't. You could never. You could
Mm-mm.
whenever, unless you talk to the young heads, they only know what they
Oh
know.
Lord.
But if you talk to old heads, we know the history of hip hop because we
Mm,
grew up in that history of hip hop because of the song like Planet Rock. Planet Rock
uh,
reached number 4 when it was hot, 1982 on the R&B charts.
was that
So
82? God.
82, 1982. Yeah, yeah. Planet Rock came out in
Oof.
1982. Yes. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, 12 years old. So that's, what's that? 34 years ago for me. So see what I'm saying? But that song still hit to this
Mm,
day. Whenever you hear a Planet Rock or you see one of the pioneers, man, you got to, I'm saying this in a way not to put them on a pedestal, but you kind of bow down to them because without them,
mhm,
it won't be no hip hop. It won't be the way that
yeah.
we grew up, make us feel good, the dance music that we like to listen to. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell people now, I'm stuck in the 90s. I can't get past the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. And some
Oh, you wearing
2010.
hammer pants?
Yeah, I don't want to hammer things. I'm talking about music wise, man. I'm talking about music wise. But yeah, you made a great point about that. He brought the electronic into the music. That's why you got something
Mhm,
like Planet Rock that's really hitting still to this day. And then, like I say, with the Zulu Nation, he wanted to do something different because gangs in New York City basically died out because people got into what hip hop, breakdancing,
yep,
graffiti, DJing, beatboxing, all the pillars were there. And like I say, he's one of the founding members.
yep.
One more question
Went
on
from
Africa. Go ahead. One more
uh,
question on Africa about my man Tim Dawg. But Africa Bambaataa ultimately remembered for more of helping shape hip hop globally, or for the controversy that clouded his later years. And you spoke about that just a little bit. You spoke
oh
about that a little
no,
bit earlier.
yeah, I'm gonna say earlier, not any allegation thing with the Zulu Nation, only because um he, I mean he not just revolutionized transcend. He was the one that also with hip hop influenced fashion. We all know fashion is driven ever
Yeah,
since the 70s. It's
yeah,
driven
yeah,
on black culture. I
yeah,
don't care. You can say whatever the hell you want on the runways in Paris, Milan, wherever.
yeah,
Hip hop influences all kind of as far as culture and history, is clothing and
yeah,
things like that. And for him to start out, just off a whim, off of just wanting to learn, and
yeah,
experiment, and other people collaborating with him who had the same mindset.
yeah,
That's what we have, the music we have now. And people don't understand the hard work it went into doing this. It wasn't like, oh, this is an idea, let's put this together, boom, boom, boom. No,
yeah.
this took years in the making.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, years in the making, and
hmm
I get kind of upset when I saw some people. I saw on another podcast, and they was talking bad about people like Sugar Hill Gang. They talk about the style of. Well, I think we talk about that as well. the style of hip hop back in the day. Well, it's something new. Of course, to you, you're gonna be like, man, this is whack. But back then, we was like, man, what the hell? This shit is off the goddamn chain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to see somebody like Afrika Bambaataa, Cool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, these guys, you know, New York City Breakers. I mean, New York City Breakers, the Rock Steady crew. You know what I'm saying? That was, to me, when I first saw them. Never been to New York City. They were New York City for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's weird because you went from battling on the streets to battling on the cardboard with
That's
breakdancing
right. That's
to
right.
battling on the turntables
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that. And
Yeah.
the street cred changed from who got beat up to who got beaten
Who
in
got
a
beat?
mixed
That's right.
contest,
Who got that right?
or who had the biggest speakers.
Oh yeah, yeah. And everybody had their crews, man. Everybody had their goddamn crews, and
Oh yeah, oh
don't mess
yeah.
around. And everybody was carrying cardboard, and don't mess around and find you a
Yes,
nice piece of linoleum flooring. Oh, if I
man,
look, oh my goodness, oh my
that's when you had
goodness,
mobile staging was in its
oh my
infancy.
goodness, man. Man, you could spin on your back and spin on your neck and do everything, man. Those were the days. But
Pharaoh's in the studio.
I saw him, but he trying to fix
Oh,
his camera.
okay.
I'm waiting for no.
Oh,
He ain't got his shit yet. But I'm just saying, man, it just I wish that he would have got more recognition than what he has getting. Even though that they're really not talking about it, I wish that he would have gotten the recognition that he truly deserved. Does
oh
that
no,
make sense?
he's getting it. No, he's getting his recognition. I'm sure. I haven't listened to like the cable hip hop stations that Shade 45 and all those other ones.
But
I'm
that's what I'm
sure.
saying. But that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't be on cable. It should
No,
be.
no, you're right.
That's what I'm saying on cable and things like that. Yeah, I understand. You know, hip hop channels, but what is the world's like I just said, the most popular music is hip hop, and without Afrika Bambaataa, we won't have the hip hop that we have today.